Former student accused of stabbing a school resource officer at Oshkosh West High School back in December of 2019 in court today as testimony begins in his trial.
20-year-old Grant Fuhrman was 16 years old at the time. Emily Byer joins us live outside the Winnebago County Courthouse with details on the witnesses who testified today. Emily.
Bill and Cammie, after opening statements today from both sides, we then heard from testimony. We heard from 2 teachers, several police officers, and then a now retired medical doctor. After testifying on the stand, the defense already talking about a possible mistrial. That was brought up after the state asked the doctor about certain injuries Officer Michael Wissink sustained that winter day in 2019. The state asked the doctor if the injuries Officer Wissink had could have been consistent with any of the items in Wissink's office. The defense jumping in, saying they were not properly made aware of this questioning or asking of the doctor's opinions on those specifics.
The state has not ever, in over 3 years, put that on notice to the defense. The state has filed previous witness lists with literally a couple sentences as to what they intended to introduce from Dr. Westfall.
And now the state responded saying that it was fair game because the defense brought it up during opening statements. Tonight on 6, hear from the teacher that both sides of the aisle say that he was a hero in this case. Reporting live in Oshkosh, Emily Byer, Action 2 News.